Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Everybody please chant Hare Krishna, Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Prabhuji's, Prabhuji's. All the Matajis, please, very loudly. Okay, Prabhuji's one more time, a little louder. Hare Krishna. Oh. Mataji's, you know what to do. Louder. Good, good. All together, please chant. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, my humble obeisances to you all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to His Holiness Chandramauli Swami's daily class. And today is also Diwali in some parts of the world, so wishing everyone a happy Diwali. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So today we'll continue with Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2. Chapter 10, verse number 27. So I'll just share my screen.
27 or 26?
Verse number 27, Gururaj. Yesterday we did Diwali pastimes, so we didn't do Srimad Bhagavatam.
Okay. Let's see the verse before, and I can tell you, I did a verse on 2 days ago.
Sure, Gururaj. This was 26.
No, I didn't do 26. Nobody did 26, then we can do 26. Well, wait a minute, no, this one, this one I did. The one you got up now.
Yeah, so I'll go to the next one, which is 27.
Okay. Okay, good. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I'm sorry, there's going to be some background singing, but I can't do anything to alter that. Oops. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Utsishur Dhatumalam. Utsishur Dhatumalam. Dirba Vidyata Vaigudam. Tatapayus Tatombitam. Mitra Utsarga Ubayasrayaha. Thereafter, when he desired to evacuate the refuge of edibles, the evacuating whole anus and the sensory organ thereof developed along with the controlling deity Mitra. The sensory organ and the evacuating substance are both under the shelter of the controlling deity. Purport, even in the matter of evacuating stool, the refuge is controlled. So how can the living entity claim to be independent? Go to the next verse. Asisripso Pura Purna Avanavidwaram Apatnadatam Tatrapanas Tatro Mityu Pritakvam Uvayasrayam. Translation. Thereafter, when he desired to move from one body to another, the navel and the air of departure and death were combinedly created. The navel is the shelter of both, namely death and the separating force. The prana vayu continues the life, and the apana vayu stops the living force. Both the vibrations are generated from the abdominal hole, the navel. This navel is the joint from one body to the other. Lord Brahma was born of the abdominal hole of the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu as a separate body, and the same principle is followed even in the birth of an ordinary body. The body of a child develops from the body of the mother. And when the child is separated from the body of the mother, it is separated by cutting the navel joint. And that is the way the Supreme Lord manifested himself as separated many. The living entities are therefore separated parts, and thus they have no independent. Magyaram Timidandasya Ginantana Salakaya. Chaksu Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Ma Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi. Pastyatya De Satarane Vanchakalpaturvascha. Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this whole series of verses connecting different parts of the body from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the source of everything, to the living entity, is just indicating that one is not independent of the Lord in any manifestation of existence, even to coming down to, as the previous verse says, passing stool. So we are controlled all the time. We're controlled through the external energy, which is the Lord's controlling energy for the living entities in the material world. For the devotees, they're controlled by the internal energy, which is directly controlled by the Lord himself. In any sense, the Lord, devotees, or every living entity is under the control of the Supreme Authority, which is the source of all existence. Therefore, no one's independent. Although one may think, and that thought is a mistaken thought, that one can act independent of the Lord. The thing is that one may decide to act independent of the Lord, but then there's another energy which chastises the living entity for acting independent. So although one may act independent from the desire of the Lord, still there is a correcting energy that automatically comes into being as soon as one tries to act independent of the Lord. And that is the more Lord's punishing energy, or the material energy, in the sense of correction. That's why people are suffering. Suffering is an indication they're acting wrongly. For a devotee, there is no suffering, or at least one who is fully devoted at Krishna consciousness, they don't experience suffering. To have a material body means to suffer, but that suffering is automatic. But when one acts independently, there's another kind of suffering, which is the recorrecting suffering, which is the same energy by which one is thrown into the material world from the very beginning of their sojourn in the material world. Just like when we want to act independent of the Lord, we're forced to be removed from the spiritual realm and come to the material world to act out that desire. Because independence of the Lord cannot be found in the spiritual world, where everything it works for the pleasure of the Lord directly. In the material world, people are using Krishna's energy for their own independent advantages, for their attempts to enjoy separately. But because they cannot remain independent, or they cannot act separately, they undergo suffering. So suffering is just a punishment for the independence of the Lord. Just like sickness, disease is a suffering for someone who acts against the laws of nature and contacts a particular disease, and then the healthy body is no longer functioning. Now you have a body that is afflicted by a type of disease, which makes life difficult, or in many cases may also end life. Just like I was just hearing today from one very close friend of mine who knows someone who is undergoing severe cancer. And she doesn't have much time left. And no doctor can do anything to avert the cancer or to remove the cancer. So that is part of the material energy. Even in this material body, there are many types of diseases, which is another form of punishment for living in this material world. Of course, for one who is a devotee, sometimes Krishna uses some type of difficulty to take the person out of the material world and bring him back to him. That's this very special arrangement by the Lord, where he uses the material energy to bring one's soul back to him in devotionals. And we see sometimes great souls appear to be under the influence of some external energy, and they get some disease or some accident happens, and then they're no longer in their body. But in certain cases, especially for pure souls, that is done just simply to finish their existence in the material world. Like there was an example of one of my god sisters. She had a little child, it was a girl that was born. And there's one thing about the child, she was always doing something that was causing her great harm. So they had to always watch the child all the time. And so many times they saved the child from dying, because the way the child was acting, it looked like that she was just, about to die at any time. So there was one time, it was actually a John Mastami festival in one city in America. And they had a swimming pool in the backyard of that place where the festival was being held. It was actually a temple. The temple had a swimming pool in the back. And somehow during the festival of John Mastami, the child ran away, and they didn't even notice she had gone at this time. But it was too late. She fell into the pool, and that was the end. So her mother took about an hour to sit down and talk to me about how this child was destined to leave the body. Because Prabhupada also mentions that sometimes a particular soul has a little bit of material energy left to deal with. They're very close to pure, and they come into this material world in that level when they have just a slight tinge of material contamination left. And so by the arrangement of the Lord, something happens, and that child does something, and then they're gone. But where do they go? Back home, back to the spiritual world. So not everything works in the same way, but in one thing, it's always understood clearly that the living entity is never independent of the Lord, either in the spiritual realm or in the material. In the material world, the lack of independence simply causes suffering, or the attempt to be independent causes suffering. In the spiritual world, or in the spiritual energy, one is already free from the three modes of material energy, but they still have a responsibility to serve the Lord. So they're free in that energy to serve the Lord in different ways, but still there is a connection with the Lord. And so therefore, in that sense, they're dependent, but at the same time free. That's so we have to see again to see how this material energy is working, and always know that if you're undergoing some difficulty in your Krishna consciousness, it may be simply due to some unfulfilled desires to enjoy in this material world that were lingering from previous lives, or it could be simply that we're acting a little bit outside of the Lord's desire for our progress in devotional service, so the Lord will use a little bit of his corrective energy in a very nice way, just like a parent will correct a child, but in a very nice way, that the child will understand the correction and immediately change. But again, the principle is there. We are never independent. Even the greatest of all living entities, as is mentioned here, Lord Brahma, he's born directly from the abdominal hole of the Garbhodakshai Vishnu. Even he came. So when we come into this world, we are connected to our mother by what they call the umbilical cord, like that. and then the umbilical cord is cut, and then the child now is no longer getting nourishment from the mother directly, but will get nourishment from the mother through the mother giving it food in the form of breast milk. So yeah, so in any situation, we are always dependent. There's no question of independence. And if we can remember that and live according to that, then we'll understand that the highest form of dependence is to engage in devotional service. Then we're under the sweet care of the Lord, and he elevates the devotee slowly back to him. When the devotee becomes perfect in their devotional service, they can go back home, back to Godhead, to leave this world of birth and death. Well, I was listening to Srila Prabhupada today. He was talking about modern education. He said it's simply a waste of time. Why? Because they are substituting real education for something that is based on the body. And therefore, they're missing the opportunity for getting transcendental knowledge, which will elevate them towards the goal of life. Still, they're getting some material knowledge so they can somehow further their dependence on the external energy and find some satisfaction, or try to find some satisfaction, enjoyment in an energy that cannot give it. The Prabhupada was really strong today. I was really amazed how he was just cutting through all of these ideas of modern education. And he says, what is the benefit? The benefit is you become a big fool, that's all. Bhaktivinoda Thakur talks about that also. He says modern education slaughters the good qualities of the living being. Even statistics show in some countries that when a child is very young, like 3 or 4 years old, their intelligence are really clear and sharp. And although we may not experience it from the position of a grown-up, the child is very, very able to receive something from the outside and process it. Although they can't process it directly, still their minds are clear and their intelligence is very clear also. But then as they grow up and go to school, it shows that their intelligence from the age of 3 to 4 to about 18 years old drops about 97%. So, oh no, I'm sorry, not that much, 80%. It drops about 80%. So yeah, so modern education is just a waste of, energy, and it just slaughters the good qualities of the living entity and makes them think in the wrong way that I can be happy in this material world, which is not possible. Because Krishna has devised the material world in such a way as that any attempt at happiness will also bring suffering along with it. It says that whatever material happiness you may achieve, you get a concomitant parallel amount of suffering accordingly. It may come in different forms, it may also come at different times, but everything is aligned like that. So happiness and distress in the material sense are actually equal. And the more you enjoy in the material world, the more you will suffer in the material world also. It's just arranged that way. We have to understand this material world as a place simply for our defeat. But we can use the material world in a way to get out of the material world, just like sometimes it says places like Vrindavan, there are many paths and people walk with bare feet and there are thorns on the path. And so sometimes a thorn will get stuck in a person's foot and they'll stop, they'll pick up another thorn and then they'll pluck out that thorn with another thorn and then they'll throw both thorns away. So in the same way, we use the material world to get out of the material world and go back to the spiritual world by engaging the activities and the items in the material world in the service of the Lord. This is called vairagya. or yukta vairagya, using the material energy for the service of the Lord. And then that material energy, which is coming from the Lord, therefore, in one sense, that material energy is divine. It'll again retain its divine nature when it goes back to its source in the devotional service. So in any case, this material world is meant for our defeat, but we can use it to get out by engaging everything. Manaso deho geho yokichu more arpilu tu al today, Nanda Kishore. Bhaktivinoda Thakur very carefully aligns himself with devotional service by saying, everything I have, and he gives a whole list, it's yours, it belongs to you. And therefore I use it for your service. And therefore I am happy. Here's the position of happiness. When we try to take something that doesn't belong to us, because Krishna says, Mama Maya, it's my energy. It doesn't belong to you. You can take what you need to live in this world. So we need food, we need air, we need shelter, we need clothing. So we need medical care. We can take the energies of the Lord to maintain ourselves in this. But if we go beyond our quota, then there's a kick coming by the material energy, and therefore one has to suffer accordingly. So a devotee tries to live simply and at the same time use whatever they have in devotional service like that. And then they become free and happy in Krishna consciousness. And then they go back home, back to Godhead, when the body is no longer functionable. Okay, so we can stop there and open it up for discussion. Can you make sure there's a car ready at 5 o'clock?
Thank you, Maharaj. Covered a lot of points in today's class. Dear devotees, first of all, please put your cameras on so we can have a nice, personal, interactive session. And please raise your virtual hands if you would like to ask a question or share any reflections or comments. If you're not able to, please put it in the chat and I will read it out on your behalf. Yes, please come on camera slowly. Everyone's coming. Any questions? Any comments? I think we've lost Marad actually, but hopefully he will join in a minute. Please get your thinking caps on. Any questions? Any reflections? It can be on anything you've heard in today's class, or if you have any questions in general from what you've been hearing or reading, you can also ask Maraj. Maraj, you're on mute if you wanted to unmute.
Topic you would like to find out more about?
Yes, please take advantage of this opportunity. Krishna Kaviraj Prabhu, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Very much you're talking about using material energy, material things to get out of the material world. Sometimes we think that we're using material things or material energy to get out of the spiritual world, but it's not working. Either we're doing it wrong or we've got the wrong consciousness. So how can we make sure that we're always doing it correctly and have the right consciousness?
How do we know we're serving in the right consciousness?
Yes.
Well, try to do your service in the best possible way, and remembering that's an offering to Krishna. You can also pray, which will make you say, my dear Lord, I'm about to offer some service, so please guide me in how best I can serve you. Because as we say, we're never independent. Even in the process of doing things, we need the intelligence, as Krishna says, if you want intelligence, I give it to you. You want remembrance, I give it to you. If you want to forget me, I also help you. So in all aspects, we can also pray for the success of executing our devotional service to the Lord. That's one way. Another way is to try to think in the best possible way how to do this service and then offer it with intelligence, with expertise, you might say. Do it nicely. Don't rush just to get it done to do something else.
Maharaj, sometimes we have to rush because the authorities are saying, come on, quickly, quickly, quickly.
Yeah, sometimes you just shut down and don't hear them. Quickly. Get it done so you can do something else. But devotional service should not be rushed. It should be done conscientiously, thoughtfully, carefully. Just like when we speak, we make sure we say things that are appropriate to the time, place, and circumstance where we're talking about. Say something different might offend a person or might appear to be really stupid, either way. So when we talk, we also think how to express whatever we need to express in the way that the communication will come through. So devotional service should be also thoughtfully done. Like, well, sometimes we rush when there's a time thing. Like when I was trying to get on to today's class, we were running out of time before the class was about to start, and we were struggling with the internet. So we had to go fast. But our desire was to connect. Well, that wasn't wrong. Yeah, this time element, or you might say this trying to get everything done within a certain period of time, sometimes spoils what we're trying to do. But sometimes there are people who are very adept in those things, and then if they can also think very quickly and do things very quickly. Others may have, not everybody has the same type of intelligence. There is slow intelligence, there's fast intelligence. Slow intelligence is more thoughtful, precise. Fast intelligence doesn't leave out anything, but they're just able to, their minds are more quicker to do the same thing that another person will take longer to do. And so you have to see there's a difference like that.
Mm.
So what are you, slow or fast? I think you're very thoughtful. So you're more or less very engaging your intelligence in a thoughtful way into thinking how to do what you're required to do. When someone asked Mother Teresa, the famous Mother Teresa, Christian evangelist, how is it you help so many people? And that was the question. And she said, one at a time. In other words, she gives full attention to whatever she's doing. Not that we try to finish up something and we're thinking about the next thing before even finishing what we're doing.
Yes, well, how
Playing is
do we
not.
deal with the pressures?
Hmm?
How do we
What's the
deal? Because I find that there's so much pressure from authorities and others saying, even when you become adept at something and you can do it nicely, quicker, they still want it faster, faster, faster. This seems to be the mood of the management.
Tell them to get somebody else. They're not satisfied with you. Well, maybe that's not the best answer, but if you're cooking and you're rushing, that's a little bit dangerous. You might pick up the salt instead of the sugar.
It happens.
A lot.
Thank you, Mirage.
Kishori.
You're on mute, Kishori Valaba.
Oh, sorry. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances or glories to Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj, this was kind of leading off from when you talked about educating children in like mainstream education, but this is more for children who go to the Gurukul, where they do get some form of, devotional learning and learning shastras as well as, mainstream um, academics and things like that. But my question was, how can we encourage the children to, engage in devotional service when their association is swaying them towards more karmic things, whether it's TV or reading
Well,
other karmic.
I depends on the age of the child, but I find when you're dealing with children, you have to make it entertaining. They have to get into it, and it has to be fun for them. So they say sometimes make learning fun. And that's just a strategy when you work with children. Otherwise, if you would deal with grown-ups and children in the same way, it won't work. But some children are more advanced than others, where there's other children who are very, very bright and are very able to take what you give them in a very, what we say, easy and serious way. I've seen that. Other children are more their age, and there's others who really don't really want to learn, they just want to play. So for them, you have to make it entertaining. I think you know all these things.
No, good. But what about when obviously they're at an older age, when they're reaching teenage and they want to engage in karmic activities or watch karmic shows? How much can we actually stop them as parents or restrict them without becoming those horrible parents that don't allow their kids to do anything? And yeah.
I don't know how to her today. Krishna was very independent. And his mother said there was this monster called was a Mumu monster. And if you don't behave, this moo monster will get you. And so Krishna was very scared of the moo monster. And then one day he said to his mother, "Oh, I saw the moo monster." She said, "The moo monster is just some imagination." So I don't know. With children, you have to be very, what we say, what's the saying? Resilient, resourceful. Kind of expert at learning how to guide them the way they need to be guided. And when you're dealing with a class, then you have to kind of like try to put the whole together in a package where they can listen. Also, what Prabhupada wanted, he didn't want children squeezed into an educational learning system. He had regular times where they would have prasadam. So they would get some sweets during the day and sweets at different times. And you can hear Prabhupada speak about that. He's talking to a Gurukul teacher, how to organize the kids without forcing them, but making their education interesting and at the same time rewarding them with sweets and whatever else you can use to inspire them to learn, to take part. But then there's always some children that don't want to learn at all. And then sometimes they cause problems in the class. You have to deal with them separately. You are expert in these areas. I'm just giving my theoretical understanding.
No, go ahead. I need the understanding. Thank you.
Thank you, Kishori Vallabha Mataji. Krishna Kaviraj Prabhu, you have another question. Please go ahead.
I was just going to make a comment, even though I know that Kishori Vallabha is way more expert than I am, but I was just going to add something into the mix, is that I found it worked for me. You just keep them really busy doing things that you're not so fussed about, and then they have no time to do this really rubbish stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but then sooner or later they'll get to their rubbish stuff.
Put it off for as long as we can.
To work with children, I mean, you really have to have to have a lot of patience, a lot of patience. And you also have to know how to deal with whatever may happen. Not everybody can do that service. That's one of the mistakes we made in our movement by putting children under the care of people who are available, but not so expert at working with kids. And a lot of times when they couldn't deal with that, they just punished the children. Sometimes the punishment was severe. And that really was, opposite of what we were trying to do. So a lot of kids were punished unnecessarily because they were forced to learn. And if they didn't learn, there was a punishment But there was one situation where one Gurukul teacher was talking about how one boy in class was just disturbing the whole class. And he would always do that at every class. So Prabhupada said he's not fit for education. Give him something to do. Put him out on the farm, let him work with the animals or do some farm work. Prabhupada said that. In other words, give him something to do. There's just some kids, they just won't go for education at all. They're not Brahminically inclined. they may be more adept at doing things, but not so much. And Prabhupada was also saying that today. It's interesting. He said a lot of poor people never sent their children to school because they thought it was a waste of time, when they could take the children and use them for different chores, engage them into activities and teach them how to become good at the activities. And they didn't learn much about education at all, but they always had proper activity and were an asset to the family and to themselves. Of course, we don't do that. We give everyone an opportunity for every occasion, but Prabhupada said that. I was in today's lecture, I was listening. He said poor people, that they just didn't waste time sending their kids to school because they just kept them home and let them do different things. And that way they grew up knowing how to do so many different things, but they weren't educated in any kind of sciences or anything like that. Okay. Anyway, education. Any final questions? We'll be having this class every day at this time for at least a week or more. I'm in Govardhan during a yatra, and the main class starts in about 10 minutes. So I had to push the class back to 1/2 hour earlier. So you can pass it on to other devotees who may not be aware of it, that for this next week, it'll be 11:30 a.m. UK time instead of 12 o'clock UK time. At least for a week anyway. I see people that are never on my other time period come today, so maybe it's good for some of you. Okay, having it a little earlier.
Thank you, Maharaj. Any final
Okay.
questions? Otherwise, we can conclude.
Okay, we can stop here and we'll see you all tomorrow. We'll continue with these verses. And there is a question from Rasavilasini Radha.
Yes, please go ahead, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Gurudev and assembled devotees. Maharaj, when I was meditating on the class, which has happened like day before yesterday, as you like said that in the Grihastha ashram, or just a question, if even one person, whether the husband, wife, or children, commit a sinful activity, then does everyone have to suffer the reaction of that karma? I mean, does it affect everyone, Maharaj?
Well, no, not in the same way, but it'll affect everyone because you're connected with the person. But the person who does the act, they will have to suffer the reaction. But what they do will be unbeneficial for others. And therefore, they may also cause disturbances or disharmony amongst others. But no, the person who is the actual perpetrator will get the direct reaction.
Okay, Maharaj, thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Okay, sounds like a family problem. Okay, so we'll stop here. And thank you all for participating. I always suggest that devotees can read ahead, get a little working knowledge of the upcoming verses, and then you can also be a little bit prepared for the class, and that way it might be more easier and more natural to ask questions. Because it's good to ask questions, it stimulates discussion, and when we get into discussion, we bring out a lot of other points that would not necessarily come out in just the regular presentations. So discussion is good. It's very good. So that's stimulated by questions.
Thank you, Maharaj. Dear devotees, please do read ahead for tomorrow's class, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you so much, Maharaj, for enlightening us on these Bhagavatam verses today, and thank you, devotees, for joining. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Bye.
Krishna, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much very much, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much,
Family.
Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Thank you, devotees.
Hari Hari Bo. Tomorrow I'll show you a little video of a girl who's, I don't know, she's about 4. Her intelligence is on a level of somebody who's 20. Really brilliant. She's really brilliant. So you see, and when people are growing up in this movement, the kids are really have sharp minds. They have past good karmas from doing devotional service in previous lives. They're born into this movement, and at an early age, so they're really intelligent. And if they're not super intelligent, they're super devoted. Either one or both, you know. Okay, remind me to show that video tomorrow, whoever's hosting. It's interesting. It's only a short video, it's about 5 minutes. Okay, we'll see you tomorrow, hopefully. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.